Okay guys, welcome to the first ever podcast on this channel. Got Shabaaz here today. So really in these podcasts, we're just going to be going through people's background, how they got to where they were today, and maybe some difficulties and try to get some wisdom from it. So what's your background and how did you get to where you was today?
Alright, so a bit of a ramble. From martial arts, I started actually learning a version of Taekwondo when I was 11 years old, 12 years old, something like that. It was a local school to where I lived. And I did that. I got a third Dan black belt in that. And then I was also an international examiner, but the system was very sort of semi-contact and it was moving away from sparring. So I then went to London Street Fighters, where I did a bunch of things. The main thing was a Kyokushin, full contact karate. So this is one where they do bare knuckle sparring. You can't punch someone in the face, but you can literally just hammer their body real bad.
It's fun.
Low kicks.
Yeah.
Look up Kumite if you're ever interested. It's
really good.
It's savage. Muay Thai kickboxing, a little bit of BJJ, and then I started teaching. So that was like sort of my martial arts fighting pedigree. But then also like in the middle of all of this, I have like a scientific background. I don't know how that kind of contrasts, but
it's a bit of a weird balance.
It's a bit of a weird. You learn to break the body and fix the body at the same time. So I actually work in drug development in the day. I have a master's in molecular medicine, cancer research, really nerdy subject, and I work in the CE as an analyst, healthcare reports, and right now on that side, I work with figuring out which are the best drugs to basically develop for cancer patients. So kind of opposite stuff going on over there.
It's very drastic. It's like one you're beating people up, breaking them down, the other one you're trying to cure them. So it's a tough balance. But what got you into your degree? Because it sounds like quite a niche degree.
So honestly, you know what I would say, just advice. And I remember I was saying to one of the students at the club, she was interested in like what to do next, sort of like at GCSE stage. And my advice is imagine this like Venn diagram, they call it? Venn diagram. Okay, so one circle is what you are good at. Okay, now be honest with yourself on that. You know, you may like drawing pictures and stuff, but if they're crap, then like So one circle is what you're good at, and the other circle is what you're interested in. Okay, so it may not be the same thing. I know that sounds a bit crazy. So some people, they're good at maths, but they're not interested inside in it. Some people are good at art, but they're not really interested in it. It's something which is natural for them. It's something that you're roughly interested in and something that you're roughly good at. And that model would have been perfect if we were having this conversation in 2002 when houses were like 50 quid. But now you've got this third circle in the middle of it, which is something which is going to bring you in a field where there's going to be some monetary return. Now, I'm all for the, you work hard at your trade, you'll master it, and then eventually you can make a success out of it. And that's true. But some fields are going to have a lot of stumbling blocks and they end in that sort of dead end. So with science, pharmaceuticals, the thing that we always say is the lab. So a lot of people who end up in a laboratory setting, there's only certain things that you can do there, and the progression is limited from a financial perspective. So that's one of the reasons I decided on the path that I ended up in as well. So good things you're good at, things you're interested in, and something which has some sort of a progression from different perspectives.
Yeah, I think that's key. I think looking at what you're good at and being really critical of yourself, because I think if you're not critical, you're just going to end up doing a degree or maybe a job you're not interested in, and it'll just get to a point where you'll be bored. You won't be putting 100% effort in, and really you got to try to push yourself. Just do anything really. I mean, I've started teaching kickboxing now, which is quite fun. So it's a bit different, but it's enjoyable. So I really, when I do it, I don't feel like I'm working. It's more of a. I think you've experienced this too. It's enjoyment. It's not.
So the joke that I made to my students and instructor team when I'm training them on how to teach is, I can't believe you guys pay me at the end of the month. Like, if you can say that at the end of a job, you're on a good one. Honestly, I would do it free. Okay, so if you can have that mindset with something, and then the money on top just becomes a bonus. So really put yourself in that position where this is fun for you. You don't think, oh no, I'm going to turn up because I'm getting this much back for it. That's extra on top of it. Obviously, at the same time, you need to be a realist. You're living in the world, so not wasting your time with things. But that's how you should feel. Honestly, that's why I feel like with the martial arts club. I know this is a very businessy-esque conversation around it, but I think it's important for a lot of people to hear. Follow a passion, and if you have that kind of mindset with it, you'll go far with it.
You don't really think about these things, but I think it's really important to find that one thing that you want to do.
Yeah, I think you touched upon something really interesting as well. You said be self-critical and aware. It's easy to lie to yourself when you think you're going to do something that you're not. And this is very, very difficult for some people to hear. Give it everything your absolute best. But I remember someone once told me it's a lot better to try to make something which is good, great, than to try and making something which is awful. Like even to get that to average, the work that you're going to have to do is going to be so difficult. So you have to be a bit strategic in the way that you apply yourself. I'm the first person that's going to tell you to say, when you have something that you're fixed on and you want to do it, just throw everything at it, 110% and then some. Like give everything to the cause, but be strategic with the way that you do it. So I don't draw the best pictures.
Yeah.
I'm never. Not never say never. I could be an artist if I gave up every minute of my life.
Yeah.
But do I really want it that bad, and am I willing to put that much effort in, or would that effort be better placed somewhere else where what I would get from it would be better?
Yeah. See, I'm good at paint by numbers, but I wouldn't say I'm an artist. Do you know what I mean? I can paint by numbers, but everything else, I don't have a chance. I wanted to touch on something. So, when reading books, or have you ever found a book that you say to yourself, that book has really influenced me in my journey, or you found a source of knowledge in there? Because for me personally, I find reading certain types of books, it gives you a new outlook on life, or it will give you a certain amount of information you didn't know before, and then you go down an avenue of looking at new information.
So the kind of books I read, I don't really read novels or anything like that. For when it comes to like books, it's more like classic works. People like Thomas Carlyle, people like ancient texts, Sun Tzu. I like reading books on political history and political science. Again, old classics. Leviathan, Hobbes' Leviathan, Machiavelli's Prince comes to mind. What I really like in Sun Tzu's Art of War, something really interesting which he talks about, because it applies to the domain of combat, as in one-on-one combat, but also on the grander scheme of armies fighting. But then also you can apply it to like business. And one of the things that he says is a signal from the east and attack from the west. It's a concept which is embedded within the book, and it's all about if you be strategic with the way that you apply things. The whole concept is slightly about deception. Actually, he uses it in sparring. I can relate that. So if you're sparring and I want to punch you in the face with a cross, I'm not just going to stand there and be able to get that. I need to distract you with a jab first, lower your guard, and then bang over there. So it teaches you about strategy and how to apply things.
I find philosophy quite interesting when it comes to life, and reading like a lot of Nietzsche, Stoic books.
Inform me, okay? So I know of his name and the top line of his text, but was he very much about Stoicism, as you're saying?
He's not a Stoic, so he has his own view on life, etc. But Stoicism is really for me. So I really like the Stoics, Seneca, Marcus Aurelius. They're very much like, if you feel a certain way, it's like we said earlier about being critical about yourself.
Yeah.
If you feel worried or you feel sad, realise these are feelings, and what's going to happen with them feelings? Well, they will go away, and you need to be able to control yourself in certain situations. I think if you allow your emotions to take the best of you, especially teaching. I mean, sometimes when I'm teaching, I might have done a sparring, and then someone's hit me with a good shot, but we're doing 60% sparring, they've hit me with 100%, and you've got to go back into teaching mode, and you're like, you've got to balance it out because it's more about be calculated and be sure about what you're doing.
I get that. This touches upon so much of like what we do. We're obviously both martial arts coaches, and a lot of it is about getting people to get beyond their own fears and weaknesses. And some of the philosophers that I really like reading into, I'm not sure if you've heard of like Rumi or Hafiz of Persia. These are philosophers from the East. Okay, maybe this is a very Eastern philosophy thing. It's embedded in martial arts as well. But no, you don't look outside. There's a very famous Rumi quote. It's always like sticks in my head that I'm probably going to mash it up quite badly now, but it was you are not a drop in the ocean, but rather an entire ocean in a drop. It's talking about what you have inside of you. You chisel away at it. There's a lot of emphasis on introspection, on meditation. These are literally the most inward things that you can do. you look inside. You already have this strength inside of you, and you're just trying to dig it out. You shouldn't be relying on this, that, or the other. It's funny because Lewis definitely knows about this. In the way that we train with the white belts, yellow belts, sort of the junior students, it's quite motivational, the grading. Like, come on, you can do it, push yourself, push yourself. But then by the time you get to black belt, it's not like that. It's very stoic, as you said.
Yeah, it's doing 3 hours and 30 minutes. I describe it as pure hell, because it's you with two other people that you don't talk to. So it's just you and two other people just sitting there, and you basically have to go to a place where mentally you should give up. Like, there should be a point where you're just like, I don't want to do this anymore, and you should normally get up and leave. But really, if you want something so bad, like the black belt, you just have to keep pushing. Like, there's nothing can stop you.
And what do the examiners tell you on the black belt grading? Are they motivating you, or what are they doing?
No, they're just telling you crap. Like,
it's the complete opposite.
Yeah,
it's horrible. But
I think Army said to me, "Oh, you can leave when you want." I was like, "I don't want to leave though." So it's really a mental game, and I think when it comes to martial arts especially, because when we look at other martial arts schools, we look at, does this other martial arts school motivate their students?
And that's what I'm trying to get at with a lot of people. They look outside. At that moment, you'll know to look inside. But you can't have that voice in your mind which is going to tell you, don't give up. Because and I will challenge anyone who's listening to this. When you're in your darkness, in that moment of pain, it's not outside voice you hear, it's an inside. It's always here. But you can only develop that. This is really difficult. You can only develop that inside voice through scar tissue, through pain. And in martial arts, in normal life, people become strong because of maybe the environment, the things that they've gone through, and a bunch of other like hard things which develop them into people. But in effect, my belief anyway, people are happy to differ, martial arts does it in an artificial manner. What it does is it gives you that pain in a slightly controlled way. You've got people who are twice your size smashing you twice a week, doing silly amounts of press-ups. You don't need to do 100 press-ups or 105 press-ups. It's better off doing them in sets, but it's challenging you mentally. It's bringing you into a place where a normal human being says, no, this is enough. But it's that pain moment where that little voice in your head starts training. So that's the bit in a black belt grading that we want to see. You've been training for 10 years, 8 years, however long it was. We want to see if that voice in your head by yourself, in your own accord, without any external influence, in fact, with only negative external influence, wakes up and says, no, it's time to throw down. Now you know who I am. Yeah. My coach always used to say, show me who you are.
I think that's an important point though, because within the topic of business, you can transition that. So for me, even throughout my uni journey or me starting my agency company, you have to go through a lot of adversity, and there's not instant gratification.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people nowadays will want instant gratification. I think we see it a lot with martial arts, with teenagers now.
They want a black belt in 2 years.
They want a black belt straight away, or they'll start moaning, and it's like people need to build up a kind of shell in their mind where it's like, I don't need gratification now, I need it later on, because it's like a long-term reward. I remember watching a video, I think it was a podcast video, and they were discussing like views on super wealthy or super successful people. They don't look at the current moment, they look at 10 years time.
Yeah.
Why do they look at 10 years time? Because instant gratification isn't always good for you. Long-term gratification is better.
It's hollow.
Yeah.
It doesn't create a strong individual. Like I said, it's the scar tissue which which is going to give you strength, and that can only be done step by step, brick by brick, slowly. This is. I don't like being overly negative about things, but if someone turns around and says, "I got my black belt in 2.5 years learning or whatever you want to call it," Louis Kwando, whatever. Okay, yeah. Unless they are in immaculate shape and they look like an absolute beast, there's no way that that's possible. Like, you can't. It doesn't make any sense. You're going through, this is the other side of martial arts where no names mentioned, but you have these McDojo type operations set up. You're grading every 2 months. You have 19 belts before you get to a black belt, half belt, stripe belts, this belt, gold belt, camouflage belt, every belt. And it's just it's a money-making scheme. It's giving people that instant gratification, like you said. People don't fail grading. So anyone who's watching this, who's training in a martial arts club, I'll ask you one question. This is kind of to know the caliber of place that you're training. How many people failed the last grading? If the answer, okay, maybe it was a good grading. It was none, that one. Everyone went fully in. But what about the grading before that?
Hopefully you enjoyed the podcast.
If you never see
If you've got
people
any
failing a
insights about any
grading,
podcast, just make
and
sure
the
to put them in the
coach's
comment
gut is
section
out to
underneath
hair,
them.
you have to ask yourself some questions. Like,
It's just that.